You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 719 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. This week, we're talking about how to get your young horse started with Jessica Gaston. And then we're really lucky to be able to talk to Katherine Bateson about the secret to riding her Grand Prix horse. For the trainer tip, we're answering questions about lunging.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Really a big struggle to get through that intro today. I don't know why. Some days it's harder than others.
I was laughing. I don't know if we still have the blooper reel, but the laughing I was doing to try to hold it together while Phil was trying to do the intro. And then we also have my dog Winston, who's usually awesome to record with. He's right with me usually the whole time. We're recording a little bit early tonight because we have Katherine Bateson, and she's in England, and which is so cool. She's in England with Carl Hester, and so we're a little bit right at it's 5:16, and my dog is 16 minutes past dinner time, and he is so upset. Phil can't get it together. Winston's got these eyes. We're really killing it today. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, what I was really tripping over is switching to French, which Catherine's horse is called Haute Couture. So I couldn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's
well, I'm dying laughing.
Earlier,
Paul comes on. You guys, you have no idea. It just took 5 minutes to get through 3 sentences, but it was amazing. But how has your week been? Because you had some exciting news happen today.
Yeah, very early this morning, the farm had a foal. We've been waiting for this foal for, it seems like forever, a couple of weeks at least, and we didn't go to the show because the foal was coming, and it's a very stressful time, and
yes,
and every day I show up at the farm, and is it born yet, or whatever, and why I offered to her get on the mom and try and squeeze the foal out, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's getting desperate.
She got kicked in the face. I would not have blamed her. Oh, yeah, what a beauty, though. Oh, he's gorgeous, everybody. Is he chestnut? I can't tell. He's chestnut?
He's chestnut.
Liver chestnut? Lots of chrome.
Yeah, I think
he's beauty.
Orange chestnut, yeah. He's also for sale, so if anybody would like a...
Reese.
Reese. You want to pull?
he's well, no, I'm just staying in Canada. And call me in 3 years when it's going. But we're going to talk about that today. We're talking about starting young horses. So, guys, maybe I'll buy this foal. He is a beauty. You never know. We'll give him a few days to get acclimated.
Yeah. But, we'll see. We'll see, how he moves, or kind of takes a few weeks to determine what's the personality of the foal and all that stuff. And I tell you his breeding, but I don't want to because I'm not exactly sure.
It's okay. You guys,
he's well-bred. He's very well-bred.
He's well-bred. He's beautiful. Well, congratulations. It's so exciting. And how's the week been training?
Training's going along. It's coming along. I mean, that's all. It's just you show up every day and you do your best.
1% better. Yeah.
And that's all you can do,
Yeah. No, it's true. Actually, yesterday it was cute. Tony Sandoval, who comes on the show, who's a regular now, he was cute. He had some interns that he wanted to bring out to work with, kind of watch me ride and kind of work with Summit. They were there when I did my session on Monday, and they wanted to come and ride and watch me ride and train. So he was here yesterday, and we worked the horse pretty hard. My horses were kind of tired today, but it was good. We were specifically working on the one-time changes. And funny, my horses are always not as good one direction as the other, and maybe it's the direction of my hip. So I do think it's coming from my hip. So it was really cool to have him kind of look at it and make some body suggestions. And we're going to do some things. I'd like to say like the gym, like it sounds like I work out. Really, Tony makes me stretch, which does help my
That's a workout. That's okay.
Yeah, it's a workout, right? It's hard for me, actually. That's the hardest thing. So So that was really fun and helpful. Again, I'm blessed to have a great team that way. But it was fun. Normally he doesn't come out that often to see me ride. And that was good because it's something we're going to kind of look at and make some adjustments in my own workout / stretching universe. So that was really good. So my horses have been great. And we do have a little horse show next week, next Wednesday. So I'll update everybody how that goes. So that's exciting. We hit the jackpot. Actually, I was so excited. We got the times today. And Isabel, who is my wonderful worker this summer, she and I are like an hour and a half apart, which is perfect because just enough time to get her horse settled and get my horse out and ready to go. And so it's like at 2:00. We were so excited. We're like, we hit the jackpot with times. Sometimes I was like, we were doing like a first level and a third level. And sometimes, and it's a haul-in show. So it's fairly far. It's like an hour from my house. It's not so easy to run back and forth to this little show. Once we go, and we take a pack of lunch kind of thing. And so I like opened the email and I was like, oh, please, the dressage gods. So we got great times. So it was literally, if I could have written it, I didn't call anybody or anything. It just happened. And I was so excited. So I already feel like we hit the jackpot for that show. So it'll be fun. So we got kind of getting ready for the horse show and Scott Hassler, my coach, is coming in next week for some training. So we got a lot of fun stuff on the horizon. So we'll update you for sure. And I think this is going to be a great show. We've recorded the interviews already, and I think you guys are going to really love them. So Phil, happy anniversary. Because as every long-term couple will forget an anniversary, and we had to scratch this in because we forgot. Happy 11th anniversary, Philip.
Happy anniversary. I almost said Meredith, but it's
yeah, I'm your work wife. It's fine. Yes, 11 years, Phil. Here we are. And seriously, everybody, we actually forgot and we close out the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's our anniversary show. This is terrible. So we thought it would be funny to scratch it in because every long-term couple will forget one every once in a while. I mentioned it at the beginning of the month that it was my anniversary, but this is actually 11 years ago, which is just insane. When we started the show, you came on, and if anybody wants some laughs, go back and listen. 11 years ago to our first show, it was terrible, but it is always funny to remember those first few shows, and now kind of remember all the cool things that we get to do, and what a community we have.
It's not that we've improved significantly. Well, I don't know how to say that, but we're not like podcasting experts. But we're definitely more comfortable doing it, and exactly. After I can't remember, but we're over 500 episodes at least together, and gosh, it's been quite a journey, and here we are, still continuing. And what's so fun is I think everyone's like, "Don't you run out of things to talk about?" I'm like, "Oh no." We run into more things to talk about. We would never run out of things to talk about. It's just like, you never stop improving your riding and so
learning.
Yeah, that's right. So
and I think
that keeps us going.
Yeah. And one of the fun things about the podcast is it does open your mind and eyes to all aspects of the industry. Right. I mean, we really try to have judges and stewards and grooms. And I mean, we really try to show that part of the industry as well, not just training, but there's so much that goes into what we do every day. And, how crazy we are that we love this sport in which perfection is not obtainable and you can always be better. But man, it's such a fun ride to be here with you guys. And that's what keeps us going. And I was only supposed to be here for 3 months. So here we are 11 years later. And thank you for listening. And we just are thrilled to have you. And I'm lucky to have a work husband like Philip. He's awesome. Thanks, Phil. High five.
High five.
But no, thank you guys very much. And we hope you enjoy the show and all the shows that we've produced and ones we have coming in the future. And we'll keep it going. I can't tell you it's for another 11 years, but stay tuned. And thank you for all the places that we get to go and people we get to talk to. So we will get into this show, and we're going to have a commercial break from our sponsor who's been with us from the beginning, Kentucky Performance Products.
Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that supports healthy muscle and nerve function by limiting cellular damage. Green grass is the best source of vitamin E for horses, but most horses don't spend enough time grazing to meet their needs. Hay, grain, and winter pasture provide little to no natural vitamin E. To ensure your horse's vitamin E requirements are met, choose Elevate. Elevate contains a readily available source of natural vitamin E. Elevate is cost-effective and easy to feed. To learn more about Elevate, visit the Kentucky Performance Products website at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have Jessica Gaston back on the show from Majestic Dressage in Ohio. And Jessica is a gold medalist and a huge part of my team as well. Jess, welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
We're thrilled to have you because we called you specifically because we wanted to talk about kind of starting young horses. And I'm going to be the moderator to this conversation between you and Phil, because you guys are really more of the experts in this. I literally send my horses to Jess. So I'm like, it looks great. Keep going. Or I've sent them to Phil too. So I don't typically do this age. So I'm going to enjoy moderating this conversation with you guys. And I'll definitely jump in too. But Jess, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business before we get the party started.
Yeah, so I've worked with Reese for a long time, and I guess I'm still a young professional. I'm 28, so I'm holding on to that.
Yes, hold on to it.
So, a lot of times when you're a young professional, you start out and everyone's like, you're young, you're sticky, here's some young horses, which is kind of what my business has been doing. And I've actually found I really, really enjoy it, and I really am passionate about getting young horses started correctly. And I've been pouring a lot of energy into it in the past several years of learning how to do it really well. So I'm actually really excited to talk to Phil about it because he's been doing it a little bit longer than me.
Perhaps,
you're still a young
We
professional.
we all got our start in the, here you're young, you're brave, you bounce, So I've gotten a little bit away from that, but we recently started this discussion because I've got a filly that is kind of a COVID horse that I am now starting 3 years from buying her, and she's just been growing up and all of that stuff. And then now so this is where this whole discussion got started last week with lunging and whatever. So I'm really happy to talk to you about it and, get some tips and give some tips, because you never stop learning and you never stop developing, better ways of doing things in horses, or here's a problem that I've encountered and then having to get some resources and tools to not only fix it, but to get going in the right way because the horses are just so very different that you have to develop strategies for every type and every kind and that kind of thing. So
yeah, and everyone has a method, and it's super cool to figure it out. I think I have a lot of cowboy friends, and it's really interesting to watch them start horses and know how we start horses more in the dressage world, and to see the common threads throughout it all of most of people when they start the horse are really looking for a good relaxed response from the horse. And that's the main goal in a well-started horse.
I'm really glad that she said that, because the first tip or, skill that you need is to be able to read a horse, and read their behavior and read what the horse needs in the moment, right? That's the way I start out with the whole thing. So I'm really glad to have my own horse because I've known her since she was a foal. Everything that she's experienced and done has been done with me. So that's kind of the best place to start, I believe.
Yeah, and you can learn so much about the horse just watching them and watching how they react to something in the barn even.
And when do you guys start this? How does that work?
Well, I believe it starts like at birth. Basically because, they every new experience and at birth, everything is new that, will shift and mold the horse's personality. So, that's my 2 cents about that. Right. But very often, you sort of get a 3-year-old and say, okay, here, I've got this horse. Can you please get it going? I'd like to ride it. I'm going to be an Olympian. So, and this is my Olympic horse. So, I just need you to start it. And then, I think that's really not a great way to think about things, and to put pressure on a rider to say, okay, well, you just need to start it. Well, I think that's sort of a misnomer. And here's some money for 30 days, and I want that horse back, with me, because it's expensive to train a horse, or to pay you to train a horse, and then so you can get this done in 30 days, and if not, you can have another 30, but there's no way I can have 90 days put on this horse. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like if there's any time not to pinch pennies, it's starting the horse, because that really just lays the groundwork for the rest of the horse's life.
I love that.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there isn't an amount of money that would be too much, for me, and my perspective is to say, I'm doing my own horse right now, but, as far as thinking about the cost of the horse, I mean, here's the horse, I've paid X amount for a foal, and then, the way to get to where I want to be, and that's like a 9 or 10-year-old horse going down the center line, every other weekend or whatever, to get between there and that is, many expensive steps. So, I mean,
so Jess, when somebody contacts you and say, okay, I have a 3-year-old, I want to get started, what are the first steps that you take?
Well, normally I try to feel out if the 3-year-old is going to be crazy or hard, or if it's going to be a little bit easier. So, I'll see if it's well handled. So if people have the young horses, get them out and brush them every now and then. That's a good thing when you're sending it out to be started. I really like it if they can be brushed. And if they can't be, have realistic expectations there that it's going to take a lot longer. But if, I pick up the 3-year-old, it's the first day in my barn, and I'm ready to start interacting with it. My first interactions with that horse might just be walking from its stall to its field and starting to lay the super basic consistency of how I want this horse to interact with me as the rider, as the person it needs to trust, do all these new strange things to it. And I try to break it down to as small of a piece as I can every time I interact with that horse. And it just baby step after baby step, kind of building it up, learning about the tack, learning the response I want it to do when it's stressed. So like a lot of horses, they will get kind of stressed out, and they're flight animals, and they're like, oh, I got to run. And if I have my goal for the day, say I want to put the surcingle on the horse as the end goal of the day, but that horse just had its head up running around with the surcingle the whole time, and I take the surcingle off, and it's hot and sweaty, and it's kind of panicked still. That horse didn't learn what I wanted it to learn. It didn't learn to be calm and relaxed in that moment. And so every little baby step I do towards getting on the horse is going to be really with the mindset of I want the horse to come away from this learning to relax and learning to take a deep breath and learning to think through this little baby problem. And that's kind of like my mindset towards that 3-year-old. Or 4-year-old, or however old the horse is.
Yeah, however old it is. I mean, the basics have to be really well established, so that I've just started doing this recently, and we brought there's 2 3-year-olds at the farm, and mine included, and they had to come from there's 2 different barns. There's the working horse barn and the breeding barn, and they had to come over from the breeding barn, the young horse barn, so I just, you just have to lead them, right? The one piece of equipment that I started using, I don't know, maybe this was 5 or 10 years ago, is a lunging cavesson. So this is a piece of equipment that has really been an important integral part to my program. I used to just, use a halter every day, but the horses would try to get away from me on the halter or whatever. And when you have this lunging cavesson, it's there's simple ones, there's leather ones, whatever you use. It has 3 rings across the noseband, and it's been an amazing like game changer is what some people call it, because you just have lots of control with no pain involved, right? So people are always putting the chain over the nose or a chain over the lip, like you're gonna do this or else, and that's not a way to approach a horse and try to find the solution to your problems. Is kind of thinking you're gonna stay with me or else, kind of thinking. This just can give a leader, the person on the ground, control of the horse's nose with a bit of pressure and zero pain, and then they can lead quietly. I think that's the first step. That they're changing barns, everything's crazy, and they need to look to their person, which in this case was me, but as a quiet leader, as a somebody who's not going to get pulled around or run over. But yeah, this has been a really nice piece of equipment.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like the idea of using that even in the everyday work.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many progressive steps before you start, throwing all, like the equipment on or whatever. So for the first week or so, they just had to come into the arena, because everything's new for them, right? They just had to come into the arena, quietly walk around, halt, walk forward, halt, walk forward, halt, walk forward. You're going to have to do lots of little baby steps that may take 10 minutes, or they may take an hour. But you've got to find a way to train that horse in a kind way, and that you're not going to start throwing too much at them, because then you say, well, where did this go wrong? Well, of course you didn't do all the steps progressively, and of course you don't know where it went wrong. Why is my horse crazy? Well, you have to return to somewhere that the horse missed a step or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then, okay, so we've gone through the first week, guys. What do we do next? Like, the horse is now leading, the horse is now going in and out of the stall, grooming. What do we do next?
Depends on the horse.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. It is hard to be. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Generalization. Well, yes, exactly. Okay. You're like, okay, what would the next step be in your guys' program?
Well, I've got a lot of things that a horse basically needs to do before I start even thinking about getting on. So in my program, I really like to introduce some steps towards riding, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that so not my own horse, but the other 3-year-old is a little bit more advanced, or he's just a little more calm. He's not freaking out about stuff. So at this point in time, my horse is still scared of the mirrors, which is fine. That's a tough thing.
Perfect. She's perfect, everyone. I'm just saying her auntie loves her and will give her cookies when I see her. Just saying.
Okay. But the other 3-year-old has been really calm about walking around the arena and going up to the mirrors, and so he is a little bit more advanced. So we started to long line him. This or that. So this is another advantage of the Cavesson, that he doesn't even need a bit in his mouth. He can just learn to accept the long lines. And with the 3 rings, there's one on each side and one right in the middle. So on the 2 side rings, he can learn to stop, which he already knows, right? So now he's just kind of learning the voice command and a bit of pressure on the lunging Cavesson. So that's my next step. So I really, I'm very careful about bitting the horse and putting a bit in their mouth. So I'm not even doing that yet.
Yeah, I agree with being careful with the bridles and the bits. And I feel like everyone who starts young horses has to kind of have their check marks that they want to do, or their little boxes they want to check and see that the horse can do before they even start to think about climbing on the horse. For me, I want to see that I can get the horse to put a little bend in its body. when I place a hand on its inside rib cage, because to me, that's my emergency stop. If things start going poorly, if I climb on, I want to see that I can put an inside leg on and that the horse is going to respond and yield to that one day when I climb on it. So I start doing that start that conversation pretty quickly. As I start introducing them to tack and stuff, I want them to know that they always have the opportunity to give a little bend and to take a deep breath there if they do get a little stressed in whatever I'm introducing to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea to get them used to a bit of pressure, or that they, for me, I like when they're in the cross ties already, I'm brushing, like when you put a little pressure on them, do they freak out, or do they kick at you, or do they accept the pressure and move away from it? So that's I've had all of those scenarios happen. It's fine. You just have to be a little bit careful of the ones that want to tell you to leave them alone. But yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, you got to know the horse, and are they confrontational? Are they shy, or are they just really gonna freak out and run away from everything? And then once you know the horses, you know what to watch for, and how to bring them down off the edge, right? So some of them need you, like the ones that kick needs you to leave the pressure on their side until they can learn to accept it, right? The ones that, I mean, they all need to learn to take a bit of pressure. The ones that like kind of run sideways also need to accept pressure, but a little bit in a different way. So, like we said, they're all a little bit individuals. And just by working with them just doing a little something with them every single day, you can learn about them, but they can also learn about you, and when they can push you, and when not to push you, and this is the thing. Like there's a little take and there's a little give, and that's just forming a relationship with a horse.
Yeah, and especially I feel like with the young horse, I always have to have my right mindset on. Like I always work them first thing in the morning, so I'm fresh and I know I'm going to approach them with really patience and consistency and make sure that they get the clearest picture from me that they can, and that it's always the same.
Yeah, I return to the idea that there's no bad horses, but you can create a bad horse because you're not fair, consistent. You're in a hurry. Like all of these things can cause problems that the horse is never going to unlearn. Right. 100%. So they have to trust their person, and they have to be calm and quiet, and if they are calm and quiet, they have to feel that reciprocated from their leader, which is whoever's working with them.
Okay, so now it's time to climb on, kids. What happens now?
You have to be working with someone that you trust completely, who knows your system, and is not gonna freak out no matter what. So that takes two people to start a horse or to back a horse. So
I don't mind being the wingman. I'm just saying, I can be the wingman. I'm not going up. No, but no, seriously, I think this is not a time. If you're by yourself, you need to get somebody. You need a friend. You need somebody. I think that's important, right, Jess?
I have a little bit of a funny story. So my husband rides as well. He's big, he's strong. And so when I was starting my first crop of young horses in my, baby business, new facility, I was like, hey, it's on, like, you're up. You got to learn how to hold these horses for me. And he did, and he learned really well. And now he's my awesome groundsman. But it was really funny. The first horse I started, I was like, today's the day. I'm getting on her. I think she's ready. And I swung my leg on, and I sat, and I petted her, and I swung my leg off, and I got off. And I was like, great, give her a cookie, put her away. And he looks at me, and he's like, that was it?
That's a huge
really
step.
Just the point, that's how it should be done, of just really baby steps. So when you do get to that point of swinging your leg over, it's no big deal for the horse because you've done dozens of new things to it and it's been okay every single time. And it really shouldn't be dramatic.
Yeah. Right. I think that's actually it, right? It's actually not dramatic. Should be pretty quiet and should just be like in, out, done. You've got a good person. It is not the time to do it when the barn's super busy. Like, exactly. You got to pick your time. So and it shouldn't be dramatic. On, done, off. There you go.
You should be ready for it to be dramatic, but in an ideal world.
Hope it doesn't. Hopefully it doesn't. Right. Okay. So now, Phil, do you have anything to add to that?
No,
I'm ready to
exactly it. Like, don't push the horse. Like, say, oh, I just got on and it's fine. So now we're gonna move to the next step and then the next step and until I've seen that situation to where you're like, oh, I can just walk. Oh, walking was fine. And then as a ambitious person, or if you're working, you're always thinking about the deadline or whatever, then you're like, you're tempted, push the boundary, and then again, there's another situation where you didn't do the homework, just getting on and then getting off and putting the horse away, because the horse is always motivated by a few things. Treats, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Or just like, okay, this is a scary experience, I just need to go back to my stall. So it's important to, if they've done what you've asked, you pat them, you show them that that's exactly what you wanted, and then you have a starting place to go to the next day, right? And so that's always important, to be establishing the things and not trying to do too much in one day. So that's my 2 cents on that. Like, yeah, that's a huge step to accept a rider, just getting on. So, yeah.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys, of course, because I'm like, what's next? Because of course I'm not going to walk back to Canada and go to the horse show.
You're the nightmare owner.
I am. I am. And when I am an owner in that situation, I have to really check myself. I think that is actually important, right? Because guys, I would be the owner, like, how's it going? But I think as the owner, I think as an owner, right? When you are an owner, you really have to and if you have sent your horse somewhere and you trust them, I'm not saying you don't need to be checking in on your horse. Of course you do, right? But, I trust these 2 people on this line. I would trust them with my dog, which is basically like my child. So, you have to let your professionals do their job, right? And so I would say, like, I need an update like every once in a while, but you can't hound because they need to do their job. And they may say, today we just brushed because there was the UPS truck and there was this and there was that. And that's what we could do. And you have to let the professionals do their job. Right. This is why I don't start them. It's not my expertise, honestly. I know my limits. And now I was never even really that good at it when I was younger. I did a few when I was little. I wasn't little. I was much younger than I was today. But if I send my horse away, right, I'm going to send him to people I trust with obviously my child, and I'm going to let them do their job. And it's hard because, of course, you want an update every day and you want to know everything they did. That's not feasible. Right. And if you can find someone that can do that, great. But I wouldn't expect that. I do expect every couple days just to kind of like check in, try not to be annoying because, of course, I want to check in every minute, but that's not fair. Right. Does that make sense, guys? Am I voicing that well? Of like, I need to let you guys 100%. Do your job.
Because honestly, if done right, our job is pretty boring.
Right. Exactly.
You get the young horse. A month, 3 months later, we're like, here you go. It walk, trot, canter's really boring, really quiet. Job is done. So it's not all glamorous.
Right. And then when I do get a report, or you do get like, hey, come and see this horse or whatever, then I also have to have realistic expectations, right? I mean, you have literally taken a horse that could barely lead and now you're on it. I think that's magic. Like, that's so cool. I love that. Right. And it blows my mind, to take a flight animal and to get on top of it, so every day that you can do that and the horse accepts that,
It's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy.
It's so cool. And like you said, you're doing it and I think that is I think that's the biggest thing when you send your horse for training too. Like, I'm not a millionaire. Like, I mean, I'm counting my pennies when I send my horse away, if that's what I chose to do, but I have to allow enough money and time to let whoever I'm sending the horse to do their job. Right. And they may say, I need another 30 days. And, I know they're not scamming me. I know I know Jess needs another 30 days. And so I have to give it to her. I have to step back and say, okay, take it, go do what you need to do. Right. Call me back in 10 and let me know if there's an update, but I think that's important with youngsters. Right. And obviously I don't like little anything. Okay. I do like puppies and kitties. Right. And foals, who doesn't like those? But once you have to start leading those foals and they get an opinion, I'm like, what is that? Why is it biting me? I don't like it. Right. It's just not, I don't like babies, like children. So I'm not really great in that stage. I know that about myself and I'm okay with that. But Jess loves that. Phil, you're obviously, you don't do as much anymore, but you can, and you're good at it. So, okay. So not to rush the process, but just moving the conversation along. We have gotten on the horse. We're pretty happy. It's been pretty unexciting. What do we do next? Like, where do we go next?
Well, I think basically from there on, because I do long lining, that gives me the ability to steer and to stop from pressure. Or, if I've done a really good job, no pressure, just stop from the word, I say ho or halt, and the horse understands and isn't freaked out. So then it's just being led around, kind of like a pony clubber lead line. That will take another week, maybe. Then, so each time. And then I ask my leading person to jog a bit. The horse, shouldn't be freaked out by a little bit of bouncing around. And then I'm ready for riding. Stop, start, steer. Mm-hmm. That's the horse ready to go for someone like you, Reese. That's great. For an adult Ammy, they need it like a year. So, and they might go to their first show or whatever. But
I need a year. Just to make it go, I'll try Canter to a show and then call me back.
Sure. But basically, if you do very little steps in the beginning, you can start to think about achieving some bigger things because the horse trusts, as long as I can get on and get going quietly and safely, in my mind, the hard part is done. Right. Okay.
I really think the first 5 to 10 rides, I trust my grounds person, and my job is to be a good balanced backpack. Okay. And then once the horse is okay for 5-10 rides with my extra, 10 to 20% of the horse's weight, and I'm a good backpack, then it's riding time, then it's dressage time, then it's learning time.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that sounds great. And then, how long?
I think that's probably going to take you a month to get to the place where you can get on. But once you have all of that established and nothing's gone wrong, you're good to go. The basic program is 90 days. First month, very small steps, very going slowly and just introducing new things. But once a horse, once you've established that calm sort of trust, I think you're good. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. And Jess, do you have anything to add? I think that's so cool. And I think that breaking it down from 90 days, right? 90 days is the average, right? Maybe you're done early and then that horse can go and do other things. And Jess, you do a lot of other things too, right? With your youngsters.
Yeah, once I feel like they can, especially the 3-year-olds, once I feel like I can walk, trot, canter, the horse understands a little bit about going on the aids, and then I start taking them out and exposing them, and I hack them a lot, or I'll go on trail rides, or I'll go chase the cows, or go ride with groups and go to a friend's house and ride them. I don't put a lot of pressure on them. I don't ride them for very long, but I try to, in that 3-year-old year, I feel like it's important to just like let them experience the world a little bit in a super low pressure, calm way. You know, and if their hack is we walk around the barnyard, that's great. But, you know, just like the 3-year-old, which is typically when I get them, their bodies can't handle a lot, but their minds can be expanded. And so I try to just like let them observe and process the world with not a lot of pressure on their bodies.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree that just giving them experiences that could be frightening or, you know, whatever, and they just experience different things, going to a show, you know, whatever it is. But basically, as far as their bodies go, again, I'm really careful about, you know, not putting them in a dressage arena and making them do thousands of tight corners or hundreds of circles on a lunge line. We talked about this last week. Like that's not going to give you a longer term soundness or sound horse, because you did too much when they were babies, and you know, putting a lot of pressure on them to, you know, to go on the bit or, you know, whatever. I think this is a problem. I think people introduce side reins way too early, you know, trying to, I don't know what they're trying to achieve, but, you know, too much pressure on the mouth, and then the horse becomes unbalanced and runs away. Like these are all bad experiences for a young horse. So I think different experiences, but not like, you know, dressage training or jumper training or whatever, because you have to be careful about their bodies and their young tendons and their young, you know, not fully formed joints. This is, you know, this would be terrible. So I'm not trying to force any 3 if they want to come, you know, round and balanced and swing, that's fine. But there's no way to force that to happen, you know, before the horse is ready.
Right. Makes sense.
And
Guys,
for the young horse, like, we're big and heavy on them, and they're babies, so they have to have the time to just learn how to carry us.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. Well, Jess, any other words for kind of starting your horse after you've lunged, after you've done all the things? Anything else for this section of their life that you want to add for the closing?
I would leave you with the thought of the young horse is the time to trust and lean on your professionals. Like, if there's any phase in the horse's life where time is crucial, where everything you do is really, really important, it's starting the young horse. And, you know, even if you're a really good rider, starting a young horse takes the type of skill and timing and finesse that needs to be instinctive and correct at the same time. And it's truly like, it's a skill that needs to be kept up. And that's the time to trust a professional, because that's all they pour their time and effort into. Like, I can tell you, I ride the baby horses all day, and I come home and I watch videos of other people riding the baby horses so I can be better tomorrow, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're amazing. And so how can our listeners find you online to get to ask you questions or get some more information about your program?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is probably on Facebook or Instagram. I'm at Majestic Dressage LLC. Majestic is Majestik. But you can message me there, and I'm pretty good about getting back to people.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Jess, for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
Especially with performance horses, flies can really be a nuisance. Fly predators are a great investment of all the different poisons and insecticides and different things you could use. I don't know of anything that is more economical and more effective than Spalding fly predators.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Katherine Bateson Chandler on the show. She's an international rider, competitor. She competed at the WAG in 2010, and that's where I got to meet her and get to know her and know her story. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's always so much fun to be here, Reese.
Well, we, obviously I got to know you when you were here in 2010 in Kentucky, and I've been following your story and journey, and you're just such a cool, positive rider and competitor, and you had you got a new horse a few years ago, and you have quite a story with her. And you just won the CDI in Ocala, which was so cool. But I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your story, because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to celebrate wins, but also know that there's a lot of sweat and tears along the way. So wanted you to kind of tell us about your mare and your journey with her.
Yeah, I got Haute Couture a year and a half ago. She's an incredible mare. She was very young doing Grand Prix, and she's been with the same rider, Dutch rider, Dinja van Leeren, since she was 4 or 5 years old. And Dinja is the loveliest, kindest person and loved this horse to death. And, it's always sad when you take a horse like that. And I mean, couldn't have been happier for me and for her to go to somebody like me who was obviously, adores my horses and will love her as much as she had loved her. But it was, it's been a bit of a journey. I had a horse years ago that I took to the World Championship or World Equestrian Games in Kentucky named Nartan, and I got him quite quickly. I got him in April, and he'd been with the same rider as well since he was young, and I quite quickly managed to make a WEG team on him within a few months. And so that worked really well. So this one, we were like, all right, we're going to get her. And then WEG was coming up quite quickly. We got her in, I think, January of the year. So we thought, well, we're just going to give her a run at it. I'm going to ride her a bit. She felt pretty rideable at home. And we thought, you know what, we're just going to go for it, put her in a CDI and just sort of see where we are. And it pretty miserably failed. It was sort of throwing myself in the deep end, throwing myself out there. Don't get nervous and just do it. I knew it was a very talented horse without a lot of holes in any of her movements. She's a horse that's capable of getting some really amazing scores in everything. And it just was too early. And so it's one of those things that I put myself out there and I fell flat on my face. So I tried not to take it too hard. And I thought, you know what, it's fine. I'm so lucky. I have the most amazing supportive owner who's been a friend of mine for, almost 20 years. And she's a rider herself, and she totally got it. She's like, you know what? We gave it a shot. We opened a bottle of champagne after, and now we're going to take it all apart and really figure it out. So that was the beginning of the whole thing falling on my face.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it feels
you did
good
not
to be able to laugh about it now.
Yes, exactly. I was there cheering you on when it happened, and we all could tell what happened. It was very clear. You're like, yeah, okay, this is just early. That's all.
Exactly. Like, it wasn't a disaster that the horse didn't do things. It was just we had mistakes all over the place, and she wasn't through enough. And we were just, I said it's like speaking two different languages. She was speaking one language, and I was speaking the other, and we were trying desperately to understand each other, but we needed a translator. And that's just the only way to explain it. And that's exactly what it felt like. I was speaking Chinese, she was speaking Dutch, and we were like, we have no idea what each other are talking about. We want to be friends. We got to figure out how to communicate.
And that's what you did, right?
So
that's exactly what you did.
Absolutely. So I was like, that's all right. We're going to strip this back a bit. I said, I've got to meet you somewhere in the middle. I watched endless videos of Dinja riding her. I mean, endless. I spoke to Dinja on a regular basis. And I had Ashley Holzer helping me, went to the end of the earth to make this work for me. So she also talked to Dinja. I ended up taking the horse because it was sort of the end of the season by then. And I said, you know what? I'm going to send the horse to Dinja for a couple of months. I said, I want her to first get on her and sort of see what she feels like, if she feels like she's in a different place. And Dinja called me as soon as because I couldn't get over there because I had the other horses competing. And she called me the next day and she said, this horse is totally fine. She's like, she feels like the day she left. She's like, you have not ruined her. She feels great. She's like, you just need to get on the same page. So I said, okay, that makes me feel a bit better. I haven't completely ruined this horse. Because that's what I was thinking. Like, you just get in a funny head place. And then it was great because I went over. I was based in England and with some other horses I had. And I flew back and forth because I knew she was in good hands with Dinja. And I flew on a regular basis and rode the horse with Dinja. And Dinja explained many things. And Ashley was also around the corner from there. So she was amazing. She went over there, rode the horse with Dinja a couple of times just so she was on the same page. And it just started to gel then. And that was great. And then I ended up, when I thought that I sort of had a good handle on it, I brought it to England because I trained with Carl Hester here. And then Carl was a whole nother level to it. And I felt like when I left here, I'd been here a couple of months with Carl helping me, which was getting better and better and better. And I thought, okay, now I really feel like I'm starting to get a handle on this. I'm feeling like I could start to think about taking her to a show. So I brought her back to Florida in November, and I put her, normally we'd have her either at my stable or Jen, who owns her, we'd have her at hers. But I said, no, I want to be at Ashley's. I want to be there every day, and I want eyes on the ground every single day of somebody. And Jen comes every single day and watches, and Ashley every day watches and gives me whatever I need. I help Ashley. She helps me. Like, that was incredible. Having that kind of support there's just nothing like it. Like, I just felt lifted up every day. And Jen would sit and watch. And if Ashley couldn't help me, I'd put Jen on the headset and she would help me. And she knows the horse as well as I do at this point because she watches every single lesson. And even now that I've got the horse in England, I send her videos every single day and she goes over it with me. And just having people that really know the horse that well is incredible at this point. And I still keep in contact with Dinya. Yeah. And then happenstance, I'd done a couple of shows in Florida with her, some national shows. They went really well. She had 74% every time. And I was really thrilled with the way she was going. And then I had entered her in a CDI, and the day before I was taking care of her in the stable, she spun around, stepped on my foot, and broke it.
Stop it. Stop.
Setbacks galore.
Stop it. You're like, okay. Whew. All right. Yeah. All right. Well,
sorry, I was just going to say, were you convinced that now, like, this partnership was cursed, or I
didn't know what to think. I had to laugh. I mean, what else do you do? I went to the doctor.
I get the bourbon.
I was convinced it was broken. Well, I tried to ride the next few days, and I was like, it was just getting worse and worse. And I was like, oh, I think I've got to go because I've never broken anything. So I went to the doctor. They x-rayed it. They're like, it's broken, and they're like, if you try and ride and something happens and you have to make a sudden move, then you displace it, then you're going to have surgery and you'll be out for 3-4 months. So I was like, all right. So I behaved. I had a couple of horses I walked on, but other than that, and it was actually, I say everything does happen for a reason. I know it sounds so cliche, but Ashley rode her for that month, and Ashley was so generous every day, and I sat and watched it. I helped her on the ground, and it was like it gave Ashley a whole nother level of understanding this horse. And so when I got back on again, it was like guns a-blazing. It was like that was the turning point of when I was like, now this horse really, like, now we get it. Like, the whole team gets it 100%. And I have to say, from then on in, she has been so on side. It's like all of a sudden she became my horse and we became friends. And I said in the beginning, I was trying to be, I'm a bit like that. Like, I want my horse to be my friend and work for me in that way. But she's an alpha mare, and she was like, you're not giving me any guidance. Like, I'm not good at leading. And then she would spook and, all these, she was a little insecure then because I wasn't the leader and she needed me to be the leader. And so once I figured that bit out, and then I was sort of a bit firmer on her and put her in a place of it, I have to say she's like a puppy. Like, she loves that. Like, she is so happy to be guided and led and that I am in charge. And now we can be friends because I've sort of established that. And it's an incredible mental feeling that's what it took. Like, it was literally like a switch going off. And now, ever since then, for months and months now, she has been my horse, and she trusts me, and she takes a correction, and it's pretty amazing, the sort of evolution of it. And I took her, like, again, I'd done some national shows. We did a lot of test riding at home until we really felt like we had it. Ashley was great. I mean, she'd come all the different places. They'd be like, now we're going here, now we're going there. And we did all our homework. We did the opposite of what we did in the beginning. We did every single box was ticked. And we went to the show, and I felt very confident with her at the show. And we actually didn't have Ashley at the show, so Jen helped me on the microphone. So it was great that she'd been doing that all along because she could just step in, take the microphone, and she was just amazing. She just stepped up to the plate, and it's like she gives you a feeling like you've never felt before. She's an incredible horse.
So what's the total time since that first competition where things were not going that well to the CDI in Ocala?
I would say a year and 2 months.
Okay. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's what everybody says, right? It really takes a year to get to know a new horse.
It does. Mm-hmm. I've done this a million times, and I've done it with, I mean, you pick your route. Like, I've had horses that I've trained from the beginning that I've taken Grand Prix, and that comes with its own challenges. And then I've had horses that were trained by other people and you take in, and that comes with its own challenges. Like, it's all challenging. It's not.
Yeah.
There is
Nothing's easy. Right?
Nothing's easy.
And it looks it from the outside to people, which I know, one way looks easier than the other, but neither way is easy. All comes with a lot of roadblocks and bumps and, their own challenges. But I mean, I feel beyond lucky and blessed to have the family and backup that I have and the people that I have with me. Alex that works for me, she's like, everybody stands behind me and says, no, you can do it. No, you're riding well. No, you need to do this better. And nobody, blows smoke, but everybody's like 1,000% supportive. Like I've come back here now to the horse, back to Carl after the time of being away. He's like, I can't believe, how great the horse looks and what have you guys done? And now he's moving it up to the next level. So it's just, and again,
it never ends. Yeah.
It never ends. Yeah. It never ends.
And all of us are totally understanding of that. You've got to take a risk. It was a risk going to Ocala. I'm like, all right, this is a risk. We're going to throw ourselves out there. We're going to do the CDI, and that paid off. But it's it's ever evolving.
Well, and I just think that's it. I just so appreciate you being so open about this, because that is so true, right? At the end of the day, I think so many people think, well, I'll just buy a schoolmaster and it'll be easy, or I'll buy a young horse and it'll be easy. Like, this is a hard sport. We all picked kind of a crazy hard sport. and like you said, I mean, it comes with challenges, and to think that, yes, you may have an opportunity at some point with a horse but that's not the norm. This story is more the norm, wouldn't you say, than, I just got a horse and I was able to go 100%. Out and go to a horse show. Like it doesn't really. I mean,
that's why, again, the scores weren't then when I went to WEG what they are now. But, I was very lucky having a horse like Nartan he was a lot more simple. He was a gelding. He was just quite straightforward. And not that didn't have its challenges. And I had plenty of not great tests on him, but, it was relatively straight line to go to WEG on him. And, this was a much more curvy line.
Yes.
But I have to say, like, I've ridden a lot of horses for a long time, and I had many people come up to me on Cal and say, I've never seen you ride that confident and that well. But that's because I've had to dig really deep and pick myself apart and like just be so picky on myself, because this horse, I just can't get away with being crooked and this hand being here and, leaning this way and leaning that way, because she's so sensitive and she's so supple, and I just need to ride as perfectly as I can possibly do. Every day I stare at my videos like, I've got to lift this shoulder out. I've got to do this. What can I do to this? Because she just won't tolerate that. And so it made me a much better rider, I have to say. Like, I feel like a much more competent rider after going through this journey with her. And each horse teaches you different things, and they all improve you. I think that's the thing. You've got to have horses that improve your riding and not the other way around. I tell my students that all the time. Sometimes I'll see a student on a horse that I can see it's not helping their riding. And I'm like, you've got to change something, because your horses have to improve your riding.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Absolutely. So, Katherine,
that's great motivation for all of us to number one, if you do have a nice horse and you're able to go out there and have successes, cherish that, right? And really, but also keep looking to improve, right? I mean, up the standard, even if you are getting 70s or whatever, like why not 80? Like, just keep shooting higher and appreciate every day that isn't a struggle, because there will be tough times ahead, right?
Way more than not. Way more struggles.
Yeah,
than
way
not.
more than not.
Days when it goes well.
Right. And I think it's so few and far between. And I think just going back to your statement of like, have horses that make you get better. I see that where people will hang on to horses too long. And I get it. Like, whenever, you're like, I love this horse, or I did that. But sometimes, if it isn't improving your riding, you really do have to sort of look inside and say, okay, this horse is not good for my confidence, or this horse is too big for me, or whatever it may be. I think that's one thing maybe you learn as a professional rider is when to kind of cut bait, and like you said, when do you dig deep and do it. So, Katherine, what's next?
Exactly.
So you're in England now. I mean, this is so exciting. So what's next in your journey?
I am. So we're going to do Grand Prix CDI, which is here week after next. we sort of talked about Aachen doing the 4-star maybe, but it just didn't really fit into the schedule. And I thought I need to get another couple of shows under my belt. So I'm going to do that because Carl will be here. And then we're maybe going to do a couple of CDIs in Europe, maybe Crozet or Zurich. We're a little bit going one show at a time, but that's sort of on the radar. And then maybe do a couple of smaller shows here, depending on, because I've got another couple of horses with me as well. And then go back to the States sometime, probably beginning of October, and then start to line up. We're very lucky in Florida to now have WEC as a showground and to have, obviously, Wellington as a showground, and they all seem to have a lot of CDIs. So then just sort of coming up with a good schedule then to start to think about next year and have Paris in our long-term goals.
Wow, that's awesome. But you will be really busy for the next couple of years. I mean, this is where maybe people don't realize, but like you have to, like if you have that huge goal of, an Olympic Games or something, like planning and scheduling starts 2 years out or before,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
You definitely. I've learned from many great people, both in show jumping and eventing and dressage, that you have to work backwards. You work from where you are. You see the Olympics is here, and you work backwards, and then you see this is how I get there. And it is a very it's a long process, and I think it's just something you've got to go through. And again, I'm very much a step-by-step person. I make a plan, and all plans are made to be changed because that's horses, as we know. And but you've got to have a plan to be able to change it. So I always make a plan, and then we can sort of work through it as we go. But it's exciting. It's fun to have another horse in the mix. After I just retired my old Grand Prix horse, and he did so much for me, and I'll be forever grateful. I'll never have a horse like him again, just in longevity and try and see what he did for me. It was incredible, and he was fun to do. The horse I trained myself, and he was very special to me. So just having retired him, it's just really fun to have another horse in the mix again and be able to get excited about making plans. Because you never know in this sport, it comes and goes very quickly.
Yeah, you never know, but it does make it a little sweeter. I'm sure that champagne after the CDI was so well worth it. And, that was the good bottle for sure.
Yeah, that's very
well.
True. That's
Katherine, again, we can't thank you enough for your time today and just how open you were about your journey. Because I had goosebumps when you were talking about Paris. I mean, just, I can't wait to watch your journey and cheer you on and, know how much work. I mean, we all know there's so much work going in, but to really hear somebody's journey really is so inspiring. So I'm sure you reached me today. I'm sure you reached many of our listeners. And how can our listeners follow you online or find you online if they want to see your journey?
I'm on Facebook, just on my name, Katherine Bateson, and also on Instagram, same thing, my name. And I try and be as much updating on my social media as possible. So look me up on either, or my email's chandlercarlos@aol.com. And anybody can always send me an email, and I'm happy to communicate with whoever would like it, whoever needs help, and whoever needs inspiration or, anything. I'm always here for people.
Awesome. Well, I follow you, and that's how I knew your story, because I was like, this is so cool. So thank you again for your time. And it's late in England, so you were so sweet to stay on with us late. And we hope your shows will be watching you and cheering you on from the States.
Oh, thank you so much. It was great chatting to you guys.
Even under the best circumstances, travel is stressful for horses. We've all been there, stuck on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. You can make the journey knowing that US Rider is there for you. Get peace of mind on the road with US Rider's nationwide 24/7 roadside assistance coverage for both you and your horse. Join today at usrider.org.
Well, Phil, I think our lunging discussion for our trainer tips have exploded, and it's been awesome because we've gotten some great questions. And again, we really mean it. We like questions. We love to hear what you're thinking. So we have to thank Nancy for some of these questions because, and then we're going to add some too. But this is just more for our lunging discussion. This is part 3, and we keep it going. I love it. So I'm going to throw it to you, Phil.
I guess, when it comes down to it, this question is about the tack that we're, what's our preferred tack to use for lunging, and, how are we attaching the lunge line to the bridle? I mean, these are all great questions that I've had myself. Yeah. So,
and I think we both have some particular, I absolutely have some real feelings on this because for safety, number one. Number two, I will bring this up real quickly because through the certification, the USDF certification, lunging is a part of it. And it's such an important part. And I'm really glad it is because there is a great lunging manual at the USDF office. I would recommend everybody get it. It is literally a lesson I teach everybody once, at least at my farm, so they know and learn how to lunge because it is, number one, it's pretty dangerous if you don't do it correctly and you're getting tied up in the lines, and it takes practice. So I did want to say that that's a great manual, worth its weight, and to purchase it. And then if you can get to a certified instructor who's been through the process, I think their process of lunging, that the USDF process they teach the instructors is awesome. It's very safe. For example, you should be wearing a helmet. You really need proper shoes. That is really important. I'm going to say that as well. So helmet, proper boots or proper boots, very important. Do not lunge in little Toms or boat shoes. That is not a good idea. You really need to think about that. Gloves,
yeah,
key, and take your spurs off. That's another one. Take your spurs off because again, you've got lines, you've got spurs. These are all safety features. So that was one thing I wanted to start with, Phil, and you can roll with the question.
Equine Canada hasn't produced a manual on lunging, but it is part of our certification process. So, and I'm sure teaching. I mean, I'm sure like me. If I see somebody not lunging well, I literally say we need to have a lesson on how to properly lunge. And if their horse doesn't know yet how to lunge, I'll pull one of mine out. Mine are all lunge well. So I'll pull them out. I even have, really easy ones. I have harder ones. But yes, I would pull that out for sure. So let's talk about your preferred tack.
Great. I am side reins, in my opinion, should always be leather. Never nylon. I don't like nylon in general. I don't think I hate it. I hate nylon halters. I hate nylon side reins because it's leather for a reason. Because if necessary, it will break, and that is actually important from a safety standpoint. You also need to make sure if you pull some leather ones out of your tack box, check the quality of leather. Make sure that they're a lot of times stitching. They're out in the ring, so they don't get that. I try to bring them in once a week that we, are inspecting them and we're cleaning the tack. And then donuts. I am absolutely adamant that they have to be leather and have donuts. So that's me. I'm pretty simple on that one. How about you, Phil?
That would be the German answer. It's like they have a specific purpose. So make sure you're lunging with a purpose. Yes. And that's all you need. I mean, they're not the cheapest things that you would buy. You
have to buy them very often.
Yeah, but they're quality, and you'll buy them once, and then if you take care of them, you'll never buy them again. So
yeah, exactly.
In my mind, that's it's a great purchase. I was just going to say about the lunge line itself has to be not leather, but cotton will do. Cotton, again, nylon is like the worst thing to.
You get a nylon burn.
Yeah.
Ooh, you will not do it again. Or you do a rope burn because you didn't wear your gloves. That's one thing. You do that enough, or you've done that once, you will never lunge without gloves because it hurts. So yes, again, I agree with you. Cotton. I also make sure that the snaps are good. The snaps on those cotton lunge lines, sometimes they go bad. And if if they have knots in them, I hate knots in my lunge lines. Again, it's a safety thing. I hate knots. They're not as expensive as the side reins, but I make sure there's no knots in them because that drives me crazy. So yes. And then a lunge whip, you want one with a lash. They are an item, they always seem to break, but I can't say I buy expensive lunge whips, but I do sometimes I'll tie a shoestring or something on the edge if I don't have one with a long lash. But I try to get the longest lash that I can have because that helps you as you're driving the horse with that lunge line, the longer it is. Then one of the questions was how you attach the lunge line to the horse. And this is, my niece is in Pony Club, so they have a specific way they teach. I personally do not ever put it over their head. I hate that. I think it makes the horses tilt their heads. So I personally will attach it. So there's two ways to do it. That I do it. Sometimes if it's going to be a really wild horse, I will loop the lunge line around. Like if I'm standing on the left side of the horse, I'll take my lunge line, I'll loop it around the left side of the bit, and then I'll push it back to the right side of the bit. Did I explain that well, Phil? It's hard to explain without showing. Sometimes I'll just loop it through. That's how I personally do it. Phil, what do you do?
So for any horse that I'm worried about, I'm not going to snap it to the bit at all. So I will pull out. Earlier in the episode, we talked about a lunging cavesson.
Yes.
Where you it has specific places to attach, and that it's not going to interfere with the horse's mouth. So if you have a good horse, then yes, I use the over the top method. But again, there's no pressure on it. So that's the difference. Is if I feel like there's going to be any pressure on the bit, or until the horse is quiet on the lunge line, then it's the cavesson can go over top of the bridle. So
and that's a great method to do, and also used in the certification. Not used probably enough for sure in the States. We don't do it enough. Again, typically I'm going to go with an older age group of horse. Phil has all ranges as well, but I don't do the real littles. They by the time they get to me, they know what to do. Yeah. So I will put that caveat in there. I don't do the littles, but I really do like the cavesson idea too. If they're young or if they're going to be really naughty, and they're going to be really naughty.
You have we were talking about last tip about lunging was like not running them around in circles. Well, one way to do that is to put the cavesson on and have some control over, the bit, the lunge line attached to the bit. You have zero control and no thoroughbred. You're just going to be. It's like a person with a kite on the end of a lead like this. It's not gonna work. So you got to have some control, some way to stop the horse if they're going too fast and pulling on the bit is not the best way to do that. So
right, exactly, which is good. And then the next question was how to attach the side reins, right?
Well, there's a couple of different.
It depends. It depends.
There's a lot of just like riding. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and none of them are wrong. No, as long as you sort of have a purpose. So I'm not going to get into inside rein short or outside rein because
you can, right? Absolutely.
You can. I've seen it. I've done it, and but I don't think that there's much purpose with attaching stuff to the bit and just like there is no blanket statement. It's like, okay, the inside rein is X amount shorter than the outside because what the thinking there is like bending the horse, but you actually don't want to bend the horse on a circle. The idea of all of things is to give the horse the best chance to balance. And so with their nose on the inside, the shoulder's just going to go to the outside and all those things, so I
exactly not making a blanket statement. It's tricky, right? Because it depends. I will say I ideally want them to be even, like you were saying. I ideally want them even. I
think that's the purpose of the sport is to be taking a very bendy object and making it straight. So,
but I've had very straight ones too that need to bend. So, so yes, it absolutely depends here on what you're doing, what your goal is. Again, we talked about it. I'm not sending the horses out there to lunge for 3 hours to make them tired. Right. Again, my purpose is typically like at a horse show, just to take a little of the edge off. In the morning at a horse show, I like to take my horses out and just let them move around. Right. Because I just don't feel like hand walking with some of them does it. Right. I have a couple horses that need to move a little more, so I'm really using it there as a purpose of just motion. So, it depends. So no blanket statement from us on that for sure. I think we both feel pretty similar in that way. What I don't want to see is horses absolutely cranked in the side reins. Obviously, I think we need to say that.
The length of the side reins should be something that the horse is, so not so long that the horse will never get into the contact, and not so short that the horse is forced, definitely not forced with his nose behind the vertical. So
exactly
something, if the horse wants to stretch, they can find a bit.
I like to say it's like, think when you watch the horse, is that the frame you want them in when you ride or in the warm-up frame? What are you going for? If you're cranking them, that's not what you're doing theoretically under saddle. It's not a punishment, right? Yeah. We're trying to let them move a little. These are moving animals and they need to move. And it is a nice way to do that without, and especially if you have one on a cold morning or a stiff back or whatever, we're trying to let them warm up or get a kink out of their back or whatever they need to do. I think that's really important to do. So again, that's, I think, important. And then, there's lots of lunging systems out there.
Let's call them systems.
Yeah, systems.
Vienna reins, triangle situation. I mean, again,
the STOA system.
Yeah.
There's a bungee system. I mean, there's lots of them out there, and it is hard to do that here on the podcast, right? To say one's good, one's bad.
I will say that anything that involves an elastic section, I would be very, very, very not against using, but I do want to say that against using, because the horse shouldn't learn that the contact is on an elastic. So because it just doesn't give. So that's why, like, it gives, but it doesn't replicate riding as far as the give, so.
Right. You want something that's going to replicate riding for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, if you're teaching horses about contact, right? Or you're warming your horse up for contact. And again, to me, I am using lunging for some level of contact. So I don't love to see them just run around like screaming their heads off, tail above their head, with no contact. And that couldn't be good for anybody. That's not the point. So that is a pet peeve, and I think there's lots of stuff out there and we've talked a little bit, and if you want to send us more questions, we'll keep chatting about it. It sounds like this is something I do think it's really worth talking about and spending some time on, because everybody sort of does it and nobody does it well. Well, I'm not saying
right. It's really hard to do well, and it's really easy to screw up.
Yes.
So that's why, I mean.
Yes. And take time. I mean, literally, if you're listening to this and you're like, I've never been taught to lunge, please just ask your instructor.
Yeah, find somebody who's somebody who's certified. Take one lesson.
This
is here's the do's and here's the do nots. Here's how to be safe. Fine, that might be all that you need. But
right.
Yeah, a lot of these systems and whatever, I'm not a big fan of. I'm a bit of a traditionalist and whatever. And then as far as like, what I'm doing with the babies now, teaching them to long line, there's very good people, a lot of experts. Well, not a lot in North America, but there's lots of people who do it really well and can teach it really well. That's not really me, or, I'm not confident enough that I can teach someone else how to do it. I get the basics down, right? For the young horses, stop, go, turn left, turn right. And then that's all I'm doing. So, I'd much rather, apply the principles from their back, because I am good at that. And so, as long as they can, stop and go, then that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
with the long line.
Sure.
Because I know how hard it is and how easy it is to get the horses screwed up. So
yeah, exactly. Well, we hope this helps. We hope you enjoy our lunging segments. Again, please keep the questions coming. We'll keep talking about it. That's what we like to do in the trainer tips. So we hope that helps. Well, again, we love email and Facebook shout outs. Keep them coming, and questions or any more questions on lunging, we'd be happy to answer them. So keep them coming. We love it. And don't forget our book club. Drum roll, we're going to be wrapping this one up. So get it from horseandriderbooks.com. The Sport Horse Problem Solver, What Works, What Doesn't, and How to Make It Better by Eric Smiley. Great book. Love it. I've actually already finished it and ready to talk about it. So we hope you're going to grab it and we can enjoy it together. As always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our page at horseradionetwork.com. Search Dressage Radio Show. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. And if you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the Auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you in a couple weeks.